Yo, ladies and gents, welcome to a detailed Yale and Oliver guide for Duet Night Abyss. I've been holding off on this for a pretty long time, and the reason for that is that I don't fully have everything that I want to be able to showcase the maximum potential of this character. But I've realized it's going to take me quite a long time to get there, so I just want to make the guide, talk about everything I know about the character, everything I have on the character, and then in the next couple of weeks I do want to do a showcase as well when I do have everything that I need. Yeah, let's just jump straight into it. So first things first, abilities. I did a video on Ollie, or Yale and Ollie a while ago, but I didn't really fully understand his kit, it would seem, back then. So now I do, and I want to go in detail specifically about the things that I missed back then as well. So first things first, the main thing about your kit is your tot poppers. Your skill is basically you press it, you go on top of... I'm assuming this is Oliver, actually. Yeah, I'm assuming. And you basically drop bombs down. Whenever you press E again, or whatever button it is for your first skill, you'll drop another bomb that comes out. It drops down, and then after a while it explodes. But if, like, obviously after a while they all explode. You can drop like 8, 9, 10 in a row. They'll explode. Yes, as I've mentioned a couple of times before. What's quite important about this is that the skill kind of has two aspects to it. And it doesn't really show it here, but you can drop blue or orange balls. Pause. And you can kind of manipulate which ones you're going to get. Now, it is slightly counterintuitive which one does what, but basically it comes down to the fact that if you have higher skill range than you do skill damage, so let me go back to my stats. If you have higher skill range than you have skill damage, you are going to be dropping orange bombs. The orange bombs are the Oliver's make bombs. They will do an increased amount of damage compared to the Yale ones. If you have higher skill damage than skill range, you will be dropping blues or Yale's make bombs. The Yale bombs will do less damage, but they will do increased stance damage. So when you're fighting a boss, the bar that they have below them, which if you fully deplete it, you can do your repose or your big attack on them. They will, like, the bar will decrease, or sorry, it'll decrease quicker if you are dropping blue bombs. Now, in most scenarios, or practically every single scenario there is, it's just not worth going for those bombs. So in essence, it means that you want to try to chase as much skill range over skill damage. Now, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have any skill damage going. It just means that you need to have an incredible amount of skill range above whatever you have for skill damage already. Now, the reason it's kind of counterintuitive is because you would think that the big one would be the one where skill damage is higher than skill range, but it isn't. So in most, or actually in every single scenario, having more skill range than skill damage is going to increase your skill damage, which is slightly weird. You can upgrade this to get some extra attack. I've tested this on some other characters, and I don't think it's worth using a Twilight Thread over, like, to get a 30% attack boost, because like, in the end, this boost isn't going to matter for all too much. Now, your ultimate Nightmare's Grasp is basically you activate kind of like an aura around you, and whenever a bomb drops, it doesn't explode, and the timer is paused. Now, I have noticed that if you drop too many bombs, they will start exploding. So there's a cap to it. I'm not entirely sure how many bombs there is, but there's a cap to it. It's like around 8 or something. And the timer of it is paused, so all the bombs will drop on the floor. You can press the button again to detonate all of them at the same time, and on top of that, you will get an increased amount of damage from the ultimate. The explosion damage itself is this one right here, but you also get an extra multiplier for every single bomb that you drop. So when you use the ult, or when you use the second skill, you basically want to pop it, drop as many bombs as possible, and then pop it again to get that big explosion going. What's quite interesting to note as well is that you get some sanity recovery back from using this per bomb that you drop. So you basically always want to be using your ultimate, or your second skill. You always want to be doing that. You can upgrade this thing for some extra skill damage. Now, again, skill damage is kind of a scary stat in the cases where you want to be chasing as much skill range over skill damage. And although it does mention in the description right here that it is related to your demon wedges, I kind of don't feel like this description is correct. I feel like other sources of skill damage also influence this. So I'm holding out on upgrading this for now, but there is going to be a scenario in which you want to be getting this. And I'll go into that in just a second. Your passive is also quite handy because it's going to help with one of the demon wedges. When you drop a bomb, if you're more than 2 meters above the ground, the hit of the bomb dropping on the ground is also going to do damage. Now, it's not that much. It's only like a 700% scaling at level 6. So I don't personally think it's worth upgrading this, especially because these materials are very precious. If it weren't for this, I would have already maxed both my ultimate and my skill, but yeah, the passive, I don't think it's necessarily worth leveling. But the fact that it does a tick of damage is quite nice to have. And then this one, when you use your skill, when you use your Thought Popper, you get a stack of skill efficiency, which I think shows, yeah, it shows right here. So this is the skill efficiency that you get. It's nice to have because you don't really have inherent sources of sanity regen aside from your supports running Serenity, so it's nice to have this going. And then we also have the increases attack for self and pyro allies. I think it's just never worth getting this on Yale because, for one, you don't want to be using him as a support because he doesn't have any supporting capabilities, and two, this increase in attack is negligible. Even if you're running a pyro DPS, it's better to just run actual supports like currently like Tabby or like Truffle. So yeah, I definitely wouldn't invest into getting this leveled. Okay, let's go into weapons first, because they kind of tie into demon wedges in just a second. As I mentioned earlier, and especially if you are not Intron 6 just yet, you want to be getting weapons that have skill range on them, because you don't really have many demon wedges that are going to give you skill range. So we're looking for weapons that give skill range. There's a couple of options. You've got Wither Shade for melee, and you've got Fathomless Shark Gaze. I think those are the only two, but there might be another one if I'm not mistaken. Doesn't really matter which one you pick, just anything that you have that has skill range on it. Now, this, the ranged weapons, is the main reason why I kind of held out on this, and because there's one weapon that I think is quite good to have here that ties everything together, that basically makes the Demon Wedge setup that I think is going to be optimal possible. But the problem is that I don't have it. And that weapon is the, drumroll please, is the Soul Rend. Soul Rend is a bow that gives you skill range. That's all it does. Now, it's locked behind level 62, which I'm not yet, so that's why that kind of sucks for me. And you might be thinking, okay, well, I mean, obviously there's weapons like Destructo, which also give you skill range. And that is completely true. But the reason why I would use, or why I would want to use the Soul Rend, is because I want to use the Gleaming Bow mod in my Demon Wedge setup. And I'll show you the setup in just a second. But the reason why I think this bow is better than, for example, the Destructo, is because if you want to make the Gleaming mod work, you need your supports to also be running the same weapon type. And as it stands right now, when it comes to supporting capabilities, as far as I can see, and I've gone through it quite a lot, when it comes to Gleaming, I think the only possible Gleaming mod that could be consistent is the bow one, because of Arclight Apocalypses, which is a buff. And plus, there's also like other bow options. There's quite a lot of bows. So you can stick this on a support, and then you can stick another bow on a support. The problem with having the Destructo is that there's not really any grenade launchers that give you supporting capabilities. So obviously it's not a huge difference whether you're running a fully maxed Gleaming with Destructo or a fully maxed Gleaming bow with your supports on other bows, but I do think it's quite handy. And another reason for that is because for Lady Nifl, I actually don't know how to pronounce her name correctly, it would seem. You've got this bow right here, the Embla Inflorescence, which is quite nice because it's very good for her Intron 6. And I think in that case, she can also benefit from having the Gleaming Bow mod. So that's why I ideally just want to level up the Gleaming Bow mod and no other mods that are related to the Gleaming ones, because I don't think they're good just yet. That being said, I don't have it, so I don't really have the maxed out potential just yet, and that's what I mentioned at the start. Let's go into Demon Wedges. So this is what I've cooked up for now, and honestly, I don't really see how there could be anything better than this. We're using Wildfire because it gives a skill range and it gives a skill damage and pyro attack. So all three of these stats are nice. And the fact that our skill range and skill damage is the same is very good. Because obviously we don't want wedges that give us a tiny bit of skill range and a lot of skill damage, because then this deficit right here goes in the wrong direction, and that's not what we want. Something that I maybe should have mentioned earlier as well is you can consistently make your bombs either orange or blue by having a deficit of more than 50%. So if I have skill range at 200 and skill damage at 149, then I'm always going to make oranges. For me, I don't actually have that number reached just yet because I haven't smelted anything, but my skill range is quite far above my skill damage that I'm going to more often than not be making orange bombs over blues. I'll occasionally get a blue, but that's okay. We'll take that into account. So yeah, Griffin's Inferno Wildfire is amazing. I don't have the golden one yet because I'm investing into other characters more so than I am into Yale right now. But the golden one is obviously nice to have because, again, two stats that we absolutely want. Devouring Wildfire is... maybe it's not perfect on him, but it is pretty good. It gives a skill damage, which is, again, not ideal because we need to offset it with skill range. But luckily, we have weapons that can deal with that. And then when a pyro character deals damage, gain one stack that increases attack by 1%. Obviously, this was made for Lynn, or maybe some future pyro character, because she can do damage very frequently. Whereas for Yale, his damage is basically, or whenever he does damage, is basically bound to whenever he can drop a bomb. But specifically for Devouring Wildfire, this passive right here is amazing because it'll give you one instance of damage for every single bomb that you drop. So you'll be stacking it up way quicker. We're using Prime Morale because there's currently not really any other options. Huntdown is completely useless because you're not using your weapon. Resolve is completely useless because you're never going to be low on HP. And then you could say maybe Serenity is good, but you kind of want to have Serenity on your support character. So that you can have morale here. You get 18%. Morale is basically you do more damage when you have full health. And as I'll show in just a second, Yale is going to be full health most of the time because you're above the battlefield. You're not going to be getting hit all too much. This one I'll wait for in just a second. I'll go into that in just a second. I'll go over Blaze Inspo first. The problem with Yale... and I say problem, but this also kind of makes it more diverse because you can try other wedges. But the problem is that you don't really have any good blaze wedges. So Eternity gives you skill duration, which you don't need. There's not really anything in your kit that benefits all too much from skill duration. Nirvana Spectrum is nice because it gives you some skill range. So if you don't have any weapons and you really want to be getting your skill range higher, you can use it. But it also has HP on it, which is entirely useless for you. So, I mean, that's kind of shitty as well. Then Standfast gives you attack, which is okay, with defense, which is completely useless. So I don't see how this could ever be good. Which leaves Inspo, which is nice because it gives us attack and it gives us skill efficiency. So these are both stats that we kind of want to have. But we also don't want to be stacking too many of them together. Now, for my current setup, I've also tried putting in like where is it? I have an upgraded blaze here somewhere. If I put in an upgraded blaze, my pyro attack goes up by like 100, less than 100. So I don't really see this being better than a blaze inspo because I'm losing 12% efficiency and I'm only gaining a tiny bit of attack. So assuming the golden version of this isn't going to be all too much difference. So yeah, I'm running 3 blaze inspos. Then I've got the Gleaming Bow mod on here for now, which I want to max. And when I do max, I'll do the damage showcase again for the same reason I explained earlier why I want to get it. But what I could, for example, or what you could do as like an alternative to this is just using another Gleaming mod. If I have multiple katanas, then I put Gleaming Katana on and I give my supports katanas. If I have multiple grenade launchers, I put this grenade launcher here and I give grenade launchers to my teammates and I put the Gleaming Nade launcher on, or I could also do it with, for example, dual blades. But the reason I'm not doing that right now is because I just don't think it's worth investing that many resources into any Gleaming mod aside from the bow one, as I've mentioned earlier. And then the last one is the coolest one, because this is something I only found out about recently, is Sphinx's Duel, which does more damage when you are facing less than 2 enemies within 20-meter range. And there's been quite a lot of testing regarding this. And something really cool that I found out is that you can use duel permanently. You can always have it on because of how far you are into the air. And I'm going to show you this in just a second. Before I do, and before I jump into the testing range real quick, you could also use Wings Inspo. I just don't feel like the max sanity or skill efficiency is that needed, so I would rather go for some damage. But it is a possibility to use. Yeah, for the same reason that I just explained why duel is pretty good, trapped is kind of bad, because you are going to try to be as far away from the enemies as you possibly can. But I'm also going to quickly mention real quick before I do forget to do that is when it comes to genie mons, just use whatever is applicable to you. For me, I'm usually going to use Brobox because if I use Yale, it's an easier content, so to speak, because he needs a lot of investment to do well in the end game content, and I don't have that investment just yet. So I'd be using that. Ardent Pirate Tail is kind of cool too. I use this on a lot of my characters because it gives you a bit of sanity back. It also gives some healing. It also increases your skill duration, which you don't really need all too much of. But it also gives you some extra pyro attack. So, I mean, awesome. Yeah, that's Genimons. Let's get into Duel. Now, what I'm going to do is I've got a setup here that has Duel on it. I'm actually going to take it off. Right, and I'm running a setup with no mods right now. You can see above my UID there's no icon. If I put duel on, put it here, you'll see this icon right here. Now, sadly, if I hover over it, it doesn't really mention anything, but this is the icon that shows that duel is active. So if I take an enemy and I put that enemy at 120 and I make him invincible and I spawn him, I'll still have the icon. Why? Because there's only one enemy here. Now, if I spawn another enemy at level 120, you'll see in just a second, the icon is going to... It should disappear. Oh, wait, sorry, no. Wait, sorry, my bad. Wait. Let's do a third one because the description is weird. Sorry, 2 enemies still counts. Invincible, there we go, boom. 3 enemies and the icon is gone. So, Duel is currently not activated, which means that right now, as it stands, if I'm doing this, I'm not doing any damage. Or I'm not doing any extra damage because of Duel. But if I just do one of these, and then jump, and I start spamming, you see that the icon is back. I've seen people say that you need to use the mod on your melee weapon to movement tech up, but you don't. You just need to be this high into the air. Now, it's absolutely bugged, because this is not 20 meters. So I do hope they don't change this, and I don't really think they will. And if they do change something, maybe they should just change the description to for it to be a bit less when it comes to distance. But in terms of vertical distance above the enemies, this is absolutely not 20 meters, but it works. So we are going to be using this because we're always going to be in the air. Now, while I'm here in the practice range, I also want to show you, because you saw that the orange bombs were dropping. I'll just keep using bombs, and you'll see that they're mostly going to be oranges. But if I get a bit unlucky, I might get one blue in there. It actually doesn't even seem like I'm getting single blue. It is still possible for me to get blues because my skill range isn't... Oh, shit, no, wait. Whoops. Let's do that again. And then maybe I should have put Serenity on. I didn't have my stats be the way they usually are. So now I'm at 190 range, 156 skill damage, and if I go up into the air, I get orange... Orange, orange. There's a chance I get a blue. But it's pretty low, which is nice, because obviously we only want to be getting oranges. Nice, there's a blue. So, yeah. The reason, by the way, why our skill is... it costs less sanity is because of this, this passive right here. So, yeah. Okay, yeah, so when it comes to his introns... Maybe, yep. Okay, so the problem with Yale and Oliver is kind of that you have, like you have a character that's really interesting, but the character only really does become pretty good when they're at Intron 6. So I'm going to go over them pretty quickly, but the main thing that we want to be looking at is Intron 6. So Intron 1, if a Thought Popper is detonated by a different type of Thought Popper, it restores 1 point of sanity. If it's detonated by the same, it restores 2. So if I'm dropping a blue and then an orange drops on top of that and it explodes, I'm getting 1 sanity. But if I drop an orange and an orange explodes on top of that, I get 2 sanity back. Considering the fact that we always want to be getting the same types, we always want to be getting oranges. This is a very nice Intron to have. Intron 2 slows down enemies by 60% in movement, in Nightmare Lab, which is your ultimate. Now, I don't think this is that good currently, because most enemies, when they're below you, they kind of want to attack you, or they want to attack your summons, but your summons are always going to be below you because they want to be as close to you. So you don't really need enemies to be slowed down because they're always going to be below you anyway. But, you know, maybe there's a future scenario in which this becomes quite good. Intron 3 gives your skill your skill 2 levels, and then your passive 1 level. So skill 2 levels, passive 1 level. Intron 4 is quite nice because when you have your ultimate up, when you have your Nightmare Lab up, there's a 45% chance to deploy an extra Tot Popper. And obviously, if you're at Intron 4, you're already doing more damage. Having an extra Tot Popper be completely dropped for free is always nice to have. Your Intron 5 gives your ultimate 2 levels and your passive another level. So basically having Intron 3 and Intron 5 together gives every single skill you have 2 extra levels. But then the most important one is your Intron 6. When Yale and Oliver is applied with Bombing Frenzy, each deployed Tot Popper combines the features of both types, dealing higher damage and posing a greater stance reduction. So Bombing Frenzy, I need to quickly look, is this? No. Is this one? Yes. So basically, whenever you use one of your bombs, you have this passive active. This passive makes it so that your bombs combine. You will be doing the stance damage of a blue bomb, and you will be doing the damage of an orange bomb. Now, that's already nice, but the thing is, as soon as you get this Intron, your entire build path changes, because you can now run something like Wainwright to get extra skill damage. You can now run something like X-Gress Duet to get extra skill damage going. And you can just focus completely and solely on building your skill damage as high as possible, because it doesn't matter anymore how much skill range you have, because you'll always be getting both of those bombs. That's kind of like the less ideal thing about this character, is you need to get to that Intron 6 if you really, really want to get the character to the point where he should be at. Whereas a character like Lizbol, sure, her Intron 6 is going to be nice, but she'll be doing a decent amount at like Intron 1 or 2 or even Intron 0. So that is kind of the unfortunate thing about Yale. But if you do really want to invest into him, and I think I will as well in the long run, I will be going for this. And yeah, you'll be doing a decent chunk of damage. Maybe one more thing that I should also mention is if you are going to be running him, when it comes to supports, there's currently only really 2 options that could be somewhat decent for him, and that is Tabby for the extra skill damage, and then Truffle for the just the extra damage that you get. Truffle, when she uses her skill, she gives you a 61% damage boost, which is quite nice. The skill doesn't need to hit you, she just needs to use it. So that's quite nice. And then Tabby has skill damage for allies here, and also skill damage here when she presses her E or when she does her normal skill. So those 2 are going to benefit you the most when you're using Yale and you want to increase your damage as much as possible. That being said, that's pretty much all I have for you here today. If you have any questions about the character, make sure to leave a comment below. If there's anything you want to say, do the same thing. And I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.